Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I'm going to assume if you're listening to this podcast episode and you read the title, 3 things you should give up for Lent this year, that you are someone who has practiced Lent or observed Lent, where you give up a food item or something for 40 days. And this is not a religious podcast whatsoever. I myself am Greek Orthodox, so as I'm recording this, my Lent actually has not started, but for those who are Catholic, it has. And I wanted to share some of the things that I typically see and why it bothers me a lot, all right? When this time of year comes, it is often filled with a reason to cut out a food that you've been struggling with being able to resist temptation. So if we're thinking about the purpose of the 40 days, it's, 40 days that Christ was on the cross and he was sacrificing. So the idea is to sacrifice in some way, or to do something that you normally wouldn't do, to experience and understand the discomfort that Christ had felt, and also just kind of preparing for his resurrection. So not to go into too much of the details of the religious aspect, but I'm not saying that you should not observe Lent if that's important to you. It's the last thing that I'm saying at all. However, what I am saying is that depending on how you observe Lent and depending on the severity in which you decide to dedicate your life to Christ and going to church and, the typical traditions, I'm going to say right now, if you never go to church and you decide to give something up for Lent, like say sugar or refined carbohydrates or white bread or cakes or cookies, or please don't do this, God, coffee. I love coffee. How could you do it? Whatever you've decided you've demonized as something that's like not good for you and you have a hard time having a little bit of it. If you're someone who never goes to church and yet you still choose to do that, I need you to be honest with yourself. You're not observing Lent. You're just trying another diet. Right? You're trying another way to restrict or to manipulate your body size, which there's nothing wrong if you want to change your body. However, if you're doing it in this all or nothing mentality, you are consistently going to feel unfulfilled, unsuccessful, because it's not attainable in the long run. Okay? So I am strongly encouraging you this year, and even if you are someone who goes to church, regularly, or you observe the holidays, or you consider, maybe you pray every day, or you pray on your own, whatever it is, this is, like I said, this is not to take away from your connection to God or Jesus, whoever you believe in. However, I will say that there are definitely things that we can add in instead of giving up certain foods. So one suggestion I typically have is in this 40 days is you can pray for 40 days. If you're not someone who usually does prayer, you can pick up a cause that you care about and donate some money or volunteer your time. Just be a good human, be a good person. You can give up cursing if cursing is something that you feel like every time you do it, it puts you in a bad mood and makes you angry rather than happy, sad, or energetic. You could give up cursing. There's other things that you can give up outside of food, okay? Because we know that most diets are only temporary, right? And so this is just something that now it's like you're masking a diet behind a religion. And I'm speaking to this from a place of experience. So when I wrote my book, Once Upon a Diet, I shared with you a section about my years in college. So if you have not gotten a copy of Once Upon a Diet, you get it on Amazon. There's an audio version, a Kindle version, and you can also purchase the paperback. And it's made the #1 bestseller list. So make sure you go and grab your copy of Once Upon a Diet. I forget what chapter, maybe 4, I shared about my experience going to college. I became a vegetarian, and then now fast forward to the time where Lent, the traditional way that Greek Orthodox are supposed to, like what the priests do during Lent season, is actually go completely no animal products whatsoever, and not even having any oil for the 40 days. So it's very, very strict. And there was a time where I wasn't going to church. I was away at college. They didn't have Greek Orthodox church, or maybe they did. I just never found one. However, I did actually grow up in the church. So I went to Sunday school every Sunday. I even taught Sunday school even after I graduated college. So all the way up to, you can teach until like the 11th or 12th grade, or you can teach in when you're in the 12th grade. Then I went to college, didn't go to church, but was still kind of religious. And then I came home and actually joined a church when I was in my dietetic internship and became a Sunday school teacher again. So I actually I grew up in the church. I was pretty religious. I believed in God. I would pray. I would sometimes read from the Bible. Like, there were things that I definitely, it was important to me. However, being completely transparent and honest, the whole sacrifice thing and giving up things, I always went along with it because I was like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to give up something like fried foods or cheese or bread or pasta or cookies or sweets or whatever it was. And I was like so engulfed in diet culture that it just became like almost like, oh God, it's going to be acceptable. And like, no one's going to judge me because they're going to think it's normal. So around this time of year, what I talk about in my book, Once Upon a Diet, was I was vegetarian for about 3 years at that point. And now Lent came around. I was like, you know what? Why don't I try going vegan? It's traditionally how it's supposed to be anyway. No animal products, right? So I was vegan for the 40 days. However, once the resurrection came around, Easter happened, I decided to stay vegan. And I ignored all these like signs and symptoms. I was bloated all the time. I was really bored of my food. And you got to read the book to see what happened next. But basically, I was actually praised for it, just like because I was in a bigger body and I became a vegetarian and I was like always working out, even though meanwhile behind the scenes, nobody knew that I was completely obsessed with everything that I ate. And I felt complete guilt or shame if I ate anything that was not healthy. And if I didn't work out, I felt like an absolute failure. But I was constantly being praised for it. So I just kept doing it. I kept working out more. I kept eating less, restricting more. And because I was in a bigger body, no one really even thought twice. But I'm sorry, but I had to interrupt this podcast because if you're feeling a little bit under the weather or you feel like you have a cold coming on, you're going to want to listen up. I'm all about staying hydrated with fluids, resting your body, and eating your veggies, but sometimes we need a little extra help. The Defender supplement from Gut Personal provides powerful immune support with key nutrients that support the soldiers of the immune system to effectively defend the body against harmful invaders. This supplement is made up of a powerful blend of key nutrients and botanical extracts that support your immune system for optimal strength and function. It contains the best immune supportive ingredients bottled up in one capsule. To learn more, go to gutpersonal.com or click the link in the show notes, and don't forget to use Tips with Tony 10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. Not to go on a tangent, but if I was in a much smaller body, almost like, a very low BMI, people probably would have been concerned for me. And I can actually speak from experience as a dietetics major. There was a lot of people, a lot of my colleagues, a lot of people who were struggling with eating disorders as well, or like borderline disordered eating. And there were, and I'm not going to say whatever, but there was definitely 2 people in our class that people were actually concerned about. And it's interesting because in my mind, I think I was actually engaging in the very same behaviors that these two other people were engaging in. But because they looked frail and thin, it was concerning, but because I was in a bigger body, it wasn't. Okay, so not to go on a tangent, but that's a whole other thing. But back to today. So why I feel like giving things up for Lent is probably going to hurt you more than help you is probably because it really is just you're never getting to the root of healing. You're not healing your relationship with food. And now it's just a blanket excuse to continue down this like very disordered eating pattern and path. So what I wanted to do today was kind of share the 3 things that I think you should give up for Lent, not the food. Okay, so number 1, what do we think the number 1 thing I think you should give up for Lent this year? It's the idea of giving up something like food or alcohol, or I guess alcohol, we can almost argue, especially if you're struggling with your relationship with alcohol in the sense of you think that it's concerning. I definitely think that I can kind of get behind that. However, I will say there's a lot of people that try like dry January and then February comes around and they're back to, over consuming it. So at the end of the day, if it's something that you feel like you can eventually learn how to have it in a balanced way, I really discourage this all or nothing mentality. However, if it's a true addiction, obviously to drugs or alcohol, then I would suggest abstaining from it and seeing if you can go past the 40-day mark. Okay. But what I definitely think you need to give up for Lent is the idea of giving up food. Okay. That's number 1. And number 2 is giving up dieting through extreme measures or these one-size-fits-all approaches. I challenge you for 40 days to, instead of ignoring your hunger cues, instead of following a meal plan, to instead of counting every single macronutrient and not feeling like you can trust your body, I am going to challenge you to let go of that for 40 days. Let's just practice incorporating balanced meals, listening to your hunger cues, get more sleep, do more prayer, do more movement, get more rest, whatever it is, more meditation, more journaling, more yoga. How can you fill your cup up? How can you fill your soul up? How can you fill your heart up? And let's dedicate that to 40 days. How can you be closer to God? That's really what it's about, right? So number 1, giving up food for Lent. Number 2, give up dieting through extreme measures and following these one-size-fits-all approaches, okay? And then lastly, number 3, give up following toxic accounts. If you see anybody that's on your news feed that's preaching those one-size-fits-all approaches, that's preaching diet extremes, right? That's preaching giving up, going, no sugar for 30 days, giving up doing a juice cleanse, so like giving up solid foods or whatever it is. Unfollow those accounts, okay? So I want you to give up following them. Just done. You're just done. You're going to be done trying Weight Watchers for the 10th time. You're going to be done following accounts that incorporate that. You're going to be done following Beachbody for the 47th time. You're going to be done doing Optavia. You're going to be done doing all of the BS stuff that is out there. Give up that shenanigans. I almost cursed. Got angry. I'm recording this on a Sunday, so let's try not to curse on a Sunday, but all right. Anyways, yeah, that's my rant. I'm done. Please. If this resonated with you, please take a screenshot of it, share it on your story, tag me at tips_with_Tony or the Tips with Tony podcast. Send it to a friend. And you know what I would even love the most is if you could actually message me on Instagram at tips_with_Tony with an I, or email me tipswithtony or email me tipswithtony@gmail.com. And let me know that this encouraged you and motivated you to give up whatever it was that you were going to give up and instead add in something for 40 days. Okay? So also, I should have started with this. I actually had a call with a client where she was telling me that she had decided that she's like, you're going to be upset with me. I'm like, I'm not going to be upset. Tell me. She's like, but I have a feeling you're not going to like it. I'm like, I don't care. Just like, that's what I'm here for. I'm coaching you to observe, to help you out. And she's like, I decided I was going to give up chocolate for Lent. So last night, I ate a whole box of it because I knew I couldn't have it for the next 40 days. So I said, who put that rule on you? You did. So you're right. Not going to like it. Got to be straight and honest with you. Chances are if you allowed yourself, which we had been doing prior, where she was allowing herself to have a little bit of chocolate every day if she wanted it. And she didn't have it every day, but when she wanted it, she would have it and then she would move on. And she's been in the program for a little bit over a month now, right? So I said, see how easy it is to get sweep backed into the BS? And how our minds we cannot go back to that, because when we think we're not allowed to have something, then we're on our quote unquote good behavior, our best behavior, and we're able to sustain it. But the more you ignore your cravings, the more you try to resist, the more you push off, oh no, I'm okay. The more you resist temptation, the more you're going to want to have excessive amounts of it, whether that's before you know you have to give it up, or after you gave it up and sustained from it for a super long time, then you're going to compensate. Our bodies are magical beings, incredibly brilliant, incredibly smart. They're always going to want to come back to balance, come back to equilibrium, come back to what it really needs, right? So let's stop with the giving of things up, right? Let's end it there. Let's end it at Lent and beyond. No more giving up foods, unless you're like deathly allergic to them or highly sensitive. We can try it out, right? But what I'm talking about, guys, and I think you understand my drift, is like this idea that you're telling yourself that you're doing it for religious reasons, but you're actually not, right? So let's just be honest with ourselves. No shame, no shade, nothing like that. Let's just be honest with ourselves. That's all I'm asking, okay? Alrighties, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for listening. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, definitely hit that subscribe button. A new episode comes out every Tuesday and Thursday, and when you're subscribed, you don't miss a beat. As always, this is Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.